Good morning, everybody. Today on the podcast, I have a really cool military spouse, female entrepreneur and founder, Karen Hetz from Kids Cake Boxes on. And I remember seeing your company start during the pandemic. And I thought it was just like such a special way to celebrate during that time. I'm not sure if that's exactly when you started, but that's whenever I saw you. But I'm excited to talk to you about that today, and your experiences like building community as you guys have moved around, being a military family. So thanks for being on the podcast today.
Thank you, Amy, for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
You're welcome. Did kids' cake boxes start because of the pandemic or something else?
So yeah, we totally started because of the pandemic, and it feels like kind of a cliche story, honestly, at this point. Like, oh, we started to survive the pandemic, but truth, right? It was actually April of 2020, and we were attending our first virtual birthday party for my niece, and my middle guy, he was 6 years old at the time, and we sing happy birthday to my niece, and then we watch her as she like blows out her candles on her cake, and we're all on the screen. It's like our first Zoom call, and we watch her eat her cake right on the other side of the screen. And my 6 year old looks at me and he was like, "Wait, so we don't get cake at birthday parties anymore either?" And it was just like,
Oh,
oh, like my heart sank and a look on his face, and I was like, oh, I gotta solve this problem because the world stinks right now, and I refuse to contribute to more disappointment, right? So it just became this, how can we fix this? And so Kids Cake Boxes was born as a solution, originally as a solution to uh it would for the virtual birthday party, right? And so these little cake kits would come to your door. Your party host would send a kit to every virtual party guest, and those guests would make their little cakes in their own home, bring it to the party. Then everybody could enjoy cake after happy birthday was sung. Some birthdays, the virtual activity was baking the cake together or decorating the cake together. And one thing that became really apparent right away was that this was this beautiful screen-free way for a parent and a child to spend time together in the heart of the home, right? We really baking together, bringing these families together, kind of shutting out the noise that was COVID and the world around us, and just like the freaking out we were all doing. It just kind of brought back family and togetherness, and then they'd bring their little cake to the party and they'd all celebrate together. So that's kind of where we were when the virtual party ended. We pivoted and really leaned into that together time that our kits provided to families, because you do still want to offer value to your customers. And so that's what we are baking memories is our tagline.
I love it. Um, I love the idea of like baking with my kids, but man, every time I try, it's like my type A-ness comes out and like
Sure.
the control I have over my kitchen comes out. And I really end up like not letting them do a whole lot in the kitchen. So it's definitely something I'm like trying to work on, but especially as they're getting older, they're not as like crazy in the
Disruptive.
kitchen. But I like that everything is like already pre-measured because I would like in my dream scenario of baking with my kids, I would have everything like pre-measured and laid out, but it never works that way because they want to like do it now. And then I'm like scrambling to get stuff out and trying to measure, and there's like flour spilling everywhere, whatever. So, um, I like that it's like ready to go and you just have to like mix it in. And I feel like I would worry a lot less about like my kitchen getting destroyed. So I love
It's
that part of it.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's definitely, we wanted to make this easy for families to do together. And everything's pre-measured. You get all the dry ingredients in these kits. You of course have to supply the eggs. I can't ship those.
Yeah.
But yeah, and on the note of eggs, totally recommend cracking them in a separate bowl instead of onto the cake mix, so that your kid can explore cracking an egg. And when all those little shell pieces get into the egg bowl, you don't have to dig them out of cake mix. And then dump the cracked egg onto the cake mix. But yeah, everything's pre-measured, just to make it easy so that we're still together, we're still baking, but we're not dealing with all the mess of measuring the flour and the sugar and so yeah.
Yeah. It drives me nuts. I really need to lose control in the kitchen, but it's gonna be
It is.
hard. That's a hard one for me to let go of. But no, I love that like just the general concept too of like you get to celebrate with people even if you're not there. So um have you seen people just like order a cake to send to somebody because they wanted to like, you know,
Yeah.
give them something for their birthday and they can't really like be there with them?
Absolutely. In fact, I think if you were to say, Karen, what category does your product fall under? I would say gift.
Mhm.
We are constantly gifted, which I love. And why I know that is because when you go on the site, you can include a gift message, right? To be included in the kit. And so many people, it's from aunties, it's from grandmas, it's from neighbors, it's people sending their loved one a baking kit for their birthday, because cakes and birthdays are hand in hand. So it really is, yeah, it's gifted. It's gifted quite frequently.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always say, like, if people close to me could say, what does Amy want for her birthday? It's always like cake and champagne. I've stopped really drinking, so like the champagne isn't as big of a deal anymore, but like I always want cake. So I love the idea of like you can send a cake to somebody. And yeah, they might have to put a little effort into it to make it, but like that's also creating a memory, like you said. And such a cool thing I mean, like just as a society now, especially in the military, like we're always spread out and away from our
Yeah,
families. But I
yeah,
think that's just kind of in general now. Like not a lot of people live like where grandma is or where
right.
their aunt is or their sister is or whatever. And so that's a really cool
Yeah.
way to like stay connected for a birthday.
Thank you. And it does really serve that military community because we're all over everywhere. And even now that, yay, we're done with virtual birthday parties, but to connect with each other still virtually when we're stationed so far away from our loved ones and experience that cake baking together virtually.
Yeah, it's really cool. Have you always been like a celebrator or like a host or wanting to like have parties and stuff like that?
So I want to. That So
Yeah.
as far as cakes and birthdays go, that's always been our thing in our family. Like, I mean, my kids have come up with some. It's basically they tell me every year they get to say, I have three kids, and they get to say, Mom, this year I want this type of cake. And I like design it and I do it, and some are elaborate. My that same kiddo that was bummed about not having cake with my niece on the virtual party in 2020, he wanted like a medieval castle one year, and
Oh my
like
gosh.
things get elaborate. And so cake has always been kind of like, yes, we celebrate, we do it up, we do the cake. Um, uh, yeah, and now I'm losing my train of thought with your question, but yeah, celebrating, I love it. And I wish I could do it more. We used to host New Year's parties, and that went away for a little while, and we just brought it back this last year. So we got to host a New Year's party this year, which was a lot of fun.
Awesome. That is a party I've always steered clear of hosting. What do you do for a New Year's party?
So what's fun is that we kind of do it for families. So our New Year's parties, it's from 5 to 8 p.m.
Okay, great.
And so you come, we feed you. Certainly champagne if you want to drink it is available. But yeah, we don't watch any ball drop. We celebrate and we send you on your way because I want to be in bed by 9.
Yeah.
But
I think that's why, I don't know, I feel like there's always so much pressure around New Year's of like the staying up late or like
uh,
making it like such a big like to do. And it's like, it just seems like too much pressure. So I just have
sure
never,
do.
that's
Yeah.
never been one I've celebrated. So, or hosted, but yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about like your military experience as a military family. So, I know there were definitely times when like you couldn't all be together for a celebration or holiday
Yeah.
because that just happens, right? People are deployed or people are gone training or whatever. Do you have any advice or like an experience that you had that made those times a little bit easier, or um, maybe it was a really crappy time, but like you found a way to get through it?
Mm. I think yeah, so there's lots of crappy times, right, in the military. And um, but what's so great too about the military is the community. And so
Yeah.
you really are, when you're part of the military community, you are just surrounded by people who not only have the same experiences as you. A lot of times it's the neighbors right around you are all in the same unit, so you're experiencing the same times away from spouses together. But uh, the community I would just really recommend leaning into them and being part and celebrating anyway. I remember my husband was gone one year and he was overseas, but we celebrated his birthday still, right, at our house. And so just really celebrate anyway. And because you have to have those moments of joy and it's also a different time now. You know, my husband served 20 years and just you obviously now you can like FaceTime. You
Yeah.
can always do that. And so yeah, I mean, and thankfully we can stay as connected as possible now with all the video, but
Yeah.
celebrate
That's
anyway, my take home.
I love that. Because I do think people tend to like celebrate the things that are actually happening like currently. Like they are still having Thanksgiving, they are still having Christmas or like their kids' birthdays or whatever, but celebrating the person that's gone. I don't know if that happens as much. So I think that's a really cool takeaway. Because even if you can't FaceTime or whatever, you could like send a photo or
Yeah.
email or whatever and just say, hey, we had your birthday party today, or we celebrated Father's Day today, or whatever it is. And I feel like I don't hear that very much. So that's a really cool takeaway. And also, I love that you mentioned like we didn't always used to have FaceTime. Like I remember being on the ship like 17 years ago and like we barely got email. And
Yeah.
so those emails we weren't even able to like send pictures. So I think it's just funny these like kids these days
Right, right,
like
right.
serving now, they have like access to all this stuff and I'm like,
Yeah.
gosh, it must not even really feel like they're away. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I know. I
Um,
know. So,
that's funny. Okay. You did say your husband, served 20 years and I know that he retired. So, and you had mentioned before that you were kind of just like worried what life after the military would look like or, how you would settle into that. I know for me, it was like super daunting when my husband was retiring of like, it just felt so permanent of like where we decided to live. And that was such a huge like hurdle for me to get over of like, oh my gosh, like where are we going to live because that's where we're going to live forever. And he had to keep reminding me like just because we've made that decision doesn't mean it's permanent. We can always change our minds. But I think you just get so used to like the military telling you what to do and where to go. um that seemed that like totally blew my mind of like, oh, I get to make a
right.
decision.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
what like aspects of retirement have you like struggled with? How have you gotten through that? Like what advice would you give to somebody that's like looking at retirement coming up soon?
Yeah, so I think advice I would give would be acknowledge the emotion of it. You know, I think we kind of you mentioned just the military is always telling you where you're going to go, what you're going to do. You have this battle rhythm, and you are at the mercy of, right, the orders and then when it falls in your lap where you don't have to listen to the for us the army telling us, you know, where we're going to do, where we're going to go, what we're going to do, how long we're going to do it. It feels overwhelming. I think that
Yeah.
it is heavy because you're like, wait, we can go anywhere or do anything. There's just too many choices. There's too many.
Yes.
And so there's this weight with that where you feel like, oh my God, now we're making this major life decision. But you're right, and your husband's right, right? It's not, well, sure, it's a life decision, but it's not the final one.
Hmm.
And so if you're like, this isn't for me, you know, we've been here, we chose to move about a year and a half ago. And we're like, yeah, let's settle. My oldest son was going into middle school. We were like, this is like, let's not move him during high school because that's the dream, right? To not have to move these kiddos during high school. And so part of it does feel like, oh, we are here for a long time. But on the same note, you can change. Um, for me personally, I know my biggest struggle though with retirement was a feeling of loss, right? You think that, oh, we are no longer part of that community that I mentioned earlier, that incredible community where like, you know, for me predominantly it was in my military community, it was the wives who were home, the husbands who were away, and these women that we were surrounded with. We are so strong, and like literally people be like, how can I help you change out your kitchen sink? Like we like, you know, like people would come over and be like, we don't, you know, we'll help. Like everybody helped everybody, and kids could just go across the street because I need a break. Like it just, you just all fall in. And so when your spouse retires from that, for me, it was, I've lost that. I've lost those women. I've lost that community. And so, but it took me a little while to realize like, no, I didn't. They're all still there. It's just we might not be living with the people who are in a same unit as my husband, but we're all still connected, and making the friends with the new neighbors. Yeah, it's a little slower. Civilians don't I feel like the military community is like, great. Yeah, no, so you want to come over for dinner tonight because we just moved in. Civilians, of course, understandably are just a little slower to kind of make that connection. But when you get to stay in a space longer, you get to make those connections eventually. So
Gosh, I could not agree with more with everything you just said. It's so true. And I love the thought of like we don't need no man, like come over and change our sink. It's hilarious. Oh, that's good. It's so funny to kind of talk to people, like especially military wives, military like spouses that are wives that just the crazy things that you do because like you have to, and there's like your husband's not around, no one's husband's around, and you just like band together and get it done. It's so
yeah,
funny. Um, yes, the thought of the civilians taking so much longer to like get to know is has been we have been here for gosh over a little over 2 years now, and it is something that has taken probably this entire time, and I will continue to feel this way. I don't get it. Like, why does it take so long to like make friends? It's
yeah,
so crazy to me. I just feel like everybody should be completely open and completely vulnerable from the get-go, and it's like it was kind of a slap in the face of like, oh no, not everybody operates that way. Like
yeah,
this is a whole new ball game, which was just kind of strange, but we've worked through it, I think. And you find your people along the way. And I have found that where we live and where our kids go to school, like I've really kind of banded with other families that were new, like at this moved
hmm
into the school around the same time. And anybody that does come in like new now that we've been there for like 2 or 3 years, I'm like, oh, you're going to start with me because you're new.
yeah,
Like I'm
yeah.
going to
That's
gather up
awesome.
all these newbies. So
Well, and I think it's a skill that we learn through our time in the military is how can we welcome new people in warmly and quickly. And I think that's a real positive character trait that is kind of learned and trained in you as a military spouse.
yeah, for sure. Yep, so good. Okay, I know you have a discount code for your baking party kits, which we'll share. I love this idea of like a baking party, which I think would be so
So
cool
fun.
to like get a group of friends together. So, but my question is like the cakes are smaller, so do they take less time to bake? So you can do like the whole thing in one sitting, like
So
bake the
here's what
cake,
I
decorate it.
Yeah. So here's what I love a lot of things about kids' cake boxes, but as a mom and as a registered dietitian, which I am by trade, our cakes, I call them perfectly sized, right? They make a little 4-inch round cake. It's a 4 by 2 inch deep. And it's kind of the perfect amount to enjoy. If you were doing it just as your family, it's so perfect to just enjoy as dessert that night, right? It's kind of this little edible work of art. The kids get to bake it with you, they get to decorate it their own way. We have it for dessert and it's gone. And then nobody is arguing over leftover cake for the next 5 days when I have to make like the Betty Crocker mix that makes the 9 by 13 or, whatever. So I love that these are perfectly sized cakes. To answer your question, super fun as a baking party. As the party activity, right? So you order these kits, bring your kids, bring all the party to your home. These cakes do still take 25 to 30 minutes to bake, but then again, everybody gets their own little cake that they can then decorate and enjoy. So you don't have to provide the party cake and the activity. It's all in one. So that's lots of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, my gosh, my daughter's 10, she'll be 11, and like
Mm.
she would love to do that for her birthday party.
It's fun.
So
So you do have to entertain them while the cake's baking for 30
sure.
minutes. Other than that, lots of fun.
I'm so grateful my kids have summer birthdays. I'm like, go outside, jump on the trampoline, go grab a sidewalk chalk, go jump rope, do something like outside, get out of the house for a minute. That's great. So tell us what the discount code is, and then we'll make sure that it's in the show notes also.
Yes, please. So the discount code is just party. Party at the code box at checkout gets you 50% off your party, which is defined as 5 kits or more. So if you order 5 kits or more, enter code party, you will get 15% off your entire order. And yeah, again, just a way to encourage and get to experience such a fun and unique way to celebrate a birthday.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll make sure we have the code in there and links to your website and all that stuff so
Thank
people
you.
can go have a cake baking party because that's so fun. I'm pretty sure I'd eat the entire cake myself though, so I don't think I'm sharing that with anybody, but no, that's fun. Okay, let's get into these kind of fun party last call questions.
Okay.
And the first one is, what is the best party that you've ever hosted?
And I want to go with I love the New Year's parties that we do. Again, because it's for those parents, it's for their kids, it's for the families who just can't stay up till midnight and don't want to, right? We're like, we're
Yeah.
old. I'm done with that. But it's such a fun, there's no pressure around New Year's. So you said pressure for you, but like there's no gifting and there's no, it's just like just come celebrate and have finger foods and fun desserts and have a glass of champagne and then yeah, welcome the new year. It just feels like this huge global celebration, and I think I love that the most.
Yeah, no, I like what you said too. Like, there isn't pressure to like give a gift or something like that. It is really just like a show up and enjoy kind of situation, and
Yeah.
that's a really good point. Okay, what is the best community that you've been a part of, and what's made it so great?
Yeah, the military community, I'll come back to it every single time. And what's made it so great is the people, right? We're just all here to help one another. And it really is truly just a gem of a community.
Yeah, so good. And then lastly, what is your best party hosting tip?
To smile. Something's gonna go wrong, right? You're gonna be like, what? And you just have to, I think you just smile, right? Because we're having fun and the people are there at your party to have fun. So always remember, you're having fun too.
Yeah, that's so good. I don't think anyone has ever said, a lot of people say the same thing in response to that question. I don't think anyone's ever said smile. So that's a fun new one,
Smile.
and a great reminder for all of us. So that's awesome. Karen, thank you so much. This has been so fun, and I've loved getting to know you better. And I hope everybody's excited to check out a cake kit
Yeah,
and maybe host a cake baking party. And we'll make
I
sure
love
we have
it.
links to it all. So thanks for being
Yeah.
here.
Thank you so much, Amy. You guys can head over to kidscakeboxes.com, grab your party discount. I'd love to host a party. Thank you
That's
guys.
awesome.
Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.